Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys and Magic. This is Hunter and Shane. Say what up, Shane.
What up, nerds?
We are back, this time taking a look at another Lost Caverns of Ixalan Precon deck. This one is Explorers of the Deep. It's all centered around the kindred of merfolk. Isn't that right?
That's right, Hunter. I love merfolk. I'm ready for this.
That's awesome. So before we get started in all of these awesome additions and the cuts that you've taken out of the deck, let's go ahead and talk about the face commander first and what the deck wants to do.
The face commander of this deck is Hakbal of the Surging Soul. 2 a green and a blue for a 3/3 merfolk scout. At the beginning of combat on your turn, each merfolk creature you control explores. A little refresher on what explore is. You reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land. Otherwise, put a 1/1 counter on the exploring creature, then put that card back or put it into the graveyard. It also says whenever Hakbal attacks, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield if you don't draw a card. This is doing so much Simic silliness, and I love this card. He will be pumping up all your merfolks you're playing. You're going to be ramping with this trigger. Like, this is going to be a really fun commander.
You're ramping, you're drawing, you're adding counters. This is insane. I am very excited to see what you do with the deck. So let's go straight into the additions of the deck. Tell me, what are you adding into it to make this deck better?
First, I like to look at the new set coming out since it is going to have a lot of the merfolk. And we got a lot of new toys in here. So the first thing I want to throw in here is Deep Fathom Echo. It's 2 a green and a blue for a 4/4 merfolk spirit. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, Deep Fathom Echo explores. Then you may have it become a copy of another creature you control until end of turn. So this is just kind of helping you get more explore triggers, and then you can have it become another creature. This is a really versatile creature, and even when it was spoiled, I was like, this card's amazing. It's going in the deck.
Yeah, that seems pretty wild, especially if you have other kind of merfolk lords in this deck. That seems pretty good.
Very. And since your commander will have you explore at the beginning of combat as well, this guy will just automatically get double explore, like hello. The next one I'm gonna be putting in is Tishana's Tidebender. 2 and a blue for a 3/2 merfolk wizard. They have flash, and it says when it enters the battlefield, counter up to 1 target activated or triggered ability. If an ability of an artifact, creature, or planeswalker is countered this way, that permanent loses all abilities for as long as Tishana Tidebender remains on the battlefield. This is just a great way to like blank something they played, dude. I know it's not going to be countering an actual creature spell, but when they go to activate a creature or an artifact or hell, even a planeswalker, dude, this is just going to turn them into nothing until this guy leaves the battlefield. Pretty sick.
Flash this in and nuke someone's commander till it leaves. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, really good card. And then the last of this group from the new set, Deep Root Pilgrimage. 1 and a blue for an enchantment that says whenever one or more non-token merfolks you control becomes tapped, create a 1/1 blue merfolk creature token with hexproof. So now every time you attack, you're going to at least create 1 merfolk with hexproof. That'll then on your next turn be able to explore with the rest of your team. You're going to get out of hand with this card, dude, super quick.
Yeah, anytime tapping down a merfolk, like you said, if you swing with the team, you get 1 at least. But I think you're going to have a lot of these 1/1 blue merfolks with hexproof. It's going to go wide, going to get crazy. I'm terrified.
Yeah, you're going to be drawing tons of cards. It's going to be this deck is just going to be out of hand. I can already see it on the wall.
Yeah. I did allude to some lords earlier. What are we adding in here?
This deck has a good amount of lords already in it, but I want to throw in some stronger lords. The first of which is Lord of Atlantis. It's 2 blue mana for a 2/2 merfolk. It says other merfolk get +1/+1 and have island walk. So if you're playing against a player with blue, now you'll just swing all your merfolks at them. They'll be very sad, and this guy will pump them all up.
Yeah. Island Walk is so incredible. Anyone that has an island, they're just unblockable.
Another lord I'm adding in is Vidalian Hexcatcher. 1 and a blue for a 1/1 merfolk wizard. They have flash. Other merfolks you control get +1/+1, and you can sacrifice a merfolk, counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. You have tons of ways to make little nothing merfolks maybe you don't care about. So that second line of text is super relevant. Start countering stuff. But basically, he's just a awesome lord with more upside.
Yeah, go ahead and get rid of those little 1/1s you made with the enchantment.
Yeah, as long as they have no mana open, they tap down for something big bomb. Boom. Nope, no, they don't.
That's going to be pretty annoying. Well, those are some of the creatures, some of the lords, some of the new cards. What about some more protection?
Yeah, we are going wide. We're going some tokens. We're doing some shenanigans. We need to be able to protect our team. The first spell I'm throwing in is Rise of the Palisade. 4 and a blue for a sorcery. Choose a creature type. Return all creatures that aren't of the chosen type to their owner's hand. So it's kind of like a Cyclonic Rift, only for creatures, and all your Mofork will stay back. So they'll just be chilling.
Yeah, a really good kindred s- bounce spell.
That's true. It'll go with anything with blue, but for this one, we're gonna name Merfolk. So the second protection spell is just good old heroic intervention. 1 and a green for an instant. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible to end a turn. Straightforward, great card. It's got a reprint Doctor Who. So to protect your entire team.
Yeah, they just keep reprinting heroic intervention, so keeps getting cheaper. I'm here for it. Great protection spell. Moving on, how about some enchantments? What are we throwing in the enchantment department?
The first enchantment that I'm throwing in is Court of Garenbrig. 1 and 2 green for an enchantment that says, when it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And at the beginning of your upkeep, distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among up to 2 target creatures. And if you're the monarch, double the amount of counters on each creature you control. I feel like this card is going to get out of hand very quickly in your deck. Not only do you want to be on the monarch, which has really good, draw some cards, but then getting 2 no matter what, that's the floor. So the floor is that you're getting 2 no matter what. And then the ceiling is that you're doubling everything. Like, what the hell, dude?
It's one of my favorite new spells as it was put into Wild Spell Train.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this card as well, and I think it's gonna put in some work in this deck. And then the next enchantment I'm throwing in is Marrow Commerce. It's 1 in a blue for a tribal enchantment Merfolk. At the end of your turn, untap all Merfolk you control. Straightforward, fantastic. So you get to swing with all your Merfolk and then untap them and keep them for block duty. Like this is a crazy card too, dude.
Yeah, it really is. I think fits nicely in the deck, and I'm surprised it's not in the Precon already. It seems like it would fit perfectly. All right, what other permanents are you throwing in here?
Well, Hunter, this is something that you've seen a million times. And if you're going to be playing with a deck that cares about counters, you're going to be throwing this artifact in. I'm putting the Ozolith in. For 1 generic mana, it's legendary artifact. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had a counter on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has a counter on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature. Just, I mean, you've said it a million times. A fantastic way to preserve any counters you got going on your board. Your board is full of counters, the board gets wiped. All the counters live on the Ozolith. I mean, granted, when it comes back, it's only going to be on the one creature, but that's still fine for me.
You said it, man. This, if anyone has been on the channel long enough and seen any of the upgrades that I do, I always seem to be stuck with the counter matter deck. This is always in my decks. This is the best card. I can't wait for this to get reprinted. It is going up in price a little bit, but yeah, it's a must have in any +1/+1 counters deck.
Yeah, I'm the counters guy this time, so I get to put it in my deck.
Welcome to the team.
Thanks.
And finally, let's talk about the mana base.
I wanted to touch it up just a little bit for this 100. So I put in Rejuvenating Springs and Breeding Pool. Rejuvenating Springs is a land that enters the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. It'll tap for a green or a blue. And Breeding Pool says as it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. So it's just 2 great lands that can come in untapped. They're just fantastic lands. Put them in.
Yep, put the bond land in, put the shock land in. And since there are only 2 colors in this deck, it makes doing the land bases a little easier.
Yeah, you don't got to worry about tries. It's just, good old duels.
Perfect. Well, is that all of the additions to the deck?
That is it. Short, sweet, to the point. Merfolk, this deck out of the box was already kind of humming, so I just wanted to make it a little more spicy.
All right, Explorers of the Deep looks spicy already, but let's get to the cuts. Talk to me now. What are you taking out of this deck to make room for all of those awesome additions?
This first group of cuts is going to look a little weird, obviously, because we are a Merfolk deck, and I'm going to be cutting some Merfolk. But out of the box, this Precon comes with 37 creatures. It's a little higher because it is a Kindred style deck, so they want to make sure you have enough Merfolk to make it hum. But since we're adding some good ones in there, I'm gonna just cut some of the ones that I think are just not as good. The first of which is Merfolk Mistbender, a green and a blue for a 2/2 Merfolk Shaman. Other merfolks you control get +1/+1. Now, that's not bad. It's a straightforward lord, but you could have seen the other ones that I'm adding in. It's a lord plus some, so it's kind of like we just upgraded this lord, so that was an easy cut for me, honestly. The next one I'm cutting is Prime Speaker Zagana. It's 2 green, 2 blue for a 1/1 merfolk wizard. It says it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. It also says when it enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to its power. This is some pretty good card draw, but this deck out of the box, I'm going to keep saying this over and over, but it has a ton of way to already draw cards. And this card, I think, honestly, sounds better than it is, at least for me whenever I play it. These merfolks are going to be kind of going wider rather than bigger. So this might not be that big. It's probably can draw you a couple cards, but it is a bit heavier, and I just don't think the payoff is all there for me. So I cut it. The next one I'm cutting is Seafloor Oracle. 2 and 2 blue for a 2/3 merfolk wizard. Whenever a merfolk you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Once again, we're going to be drawing so many cards in this deck. Like the commander alone can draw you 6 cards ish a turn. Like it's crazy. So I don't think we need this card. And plus, I like more what I added. Another one I'm cutting is Coral Helm Commander. 2 blue mana for a merfolk soldier. It starts up at a 2/2 and it has a level up ability. So you can pay 1 generic and you can only level up as a sorcery. Levels 2 through 3, it just gains flying and it's a 3/3. And levels 4 plus, it's a 4/4 with flying. Other merfolks you control get +1/+1. So this is going to be a lord and it's going to be flying, which is relevant. But you will have to dump a lot of mana in this, and it's going to be over many turns probably. Whereas you could just play some other cheaper merfolks that are going to do it already. So you don't have to kind of just have it sitting waiting around and then potentially get removed well before you get to that level 4. So I just don't think it's there for me. It's a little mana intensive. I cut it.
Yeah, you added some other awesome lords that are relatively cheaper, because in the end, this is going to cost you 5 mana for a lord, essentially.
Yeah. And we got some lords that are much cheaper and way more impactful with their abilities. So it's out. The next one I'm cutting is Varel of the Whole Clade. It is 1 a green and a blue for a 1/4 human merfolk. You can pay a green and a blue and tap it. Double the number of each kind of counters on target artifact, creature, or land. This is cool. You're going to double some counters on one thing, but you don't really need it, honestly. Like, yeah, you'll double it and make one thing bigger, but your cards are just going to be out of hand. Like, just goldfishing this deck and playing it. The way you explore with this deck is nuts. So I just cut it. I didn't think I liked it. And then the last creature I'm cutting out of here is Thassa, God of the Sea. 2 and a blue for a 5/5 legendary enchantment creature god. They have indestructible, and as long as your devotion of blue is less than 5, Thassa isn't a creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, you scry 1, and you can pay 1 and a blue. Target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. I guess scrying is decent, but I don't really see it here. Like, yeah, once you get your devotion past 5, it'll become a 5/5 that can swing, and I guess the ability to have one thing unblockable seems okay, but there are actual cards in here that'll make your entire team unblockable. Like give them Island Walk or just say literally these creatures can't be blocked. So I didn't like this card. I got it out of there.
Yeah, I can see why you cut all these creatures. What you added into the deck seems to be a lot better than these, so I like the swaps. Speaking of swaps, looks like we're getting rid of some sorcery and instants here.
Yeah, I added some board wipes and some protection spells. So I'm just gonna make some room for those cards. The first one I'm cutting is Commit to Memory. The commit part is 3 and a blue for an instant. Put target spell or non-land permanent into its owner's library, second from the top. The memory side is a sorcery for 4 and 2 blue. It has Aftermath, so you can only cast the spell from your graveyard. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, then draws 7 cards. I think for the strategy, what we're doing here, going wide with Merfolk and exploring and whatnot, I just don't think this card fits, so I'm going to cut it out of there.
Yeah, I understand the reasoning here. I get why you cut it.
Another card I'm cutting is Curse of the Swine. It's X and 2 blue for a sorcery. Exile X target creatures. For each creature exiled this way, its controller creates a 2/2 green boar creature token. You saw that added in Raise the Palisade. I like that more for removal. This one, you got to be dumping in a lot of mana, and then you're still giving them a creature. You're probably dealing with a better creature, but you're still giving them a creature. So I kind of just figured I'd swap those two out.
Yeah, this is one of those bait spells. Yes, it exiles creatures in blue, but at the same time, yeah, like you said, you got to dump a lot of mana in if you want to get rid of a lot.
Yep. Another card I'm going to be getting rid of is Quandrix Command. 1, a green and a blue for an instant. It says choose 2. Return target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. Target player shuffles up to 3 target cards from their graveyard into their library. I like a couple of these modes. I don't really like some of them. You are going to be putting counters on your creatures, which is kind of what the deck wants to do. But I just don't think it's all too impactful. The counter part is really limiting too. So I cut it out of there. The last instant I'm getting rid of is Ruinous Intrusion. 3 and a green for an instant. Exile target artifact or enchantment. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the mana value of the permanent exiled this way. It seems a little limiting. Like you're going to be getting rid of an artifact or enchantment and just making one thing bigger. I don't know. It just seems very narrow, in my opinion. It doesn't really hit anything, no creatures, so I got it out of there.
Yeah, and for 4 mana, you just want to be spending that mana elsewhere. I get it. And we did see the lands that you added. What lands are we taking out to fill that spot?
Pretty easy cuts, in my opinion. I'm getting rid of Myriad Landscape and Temple of the False God. Myriad Landscape enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for a colorless. You can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice Myriad Landscape. Choose your library from up to 2 basic land cards that share its land type. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Really slow. Not that great. And then the other one, Temple of the False God. You can tap it, add 2 colorless. Activate if you have 5 or more. We all know that we get this on our opening hand and then, have to mulligan because the card sucks, Hunter.
Yeah, it does. I cut it out of mine. I think everybody else cut it out of theirs. Temple of the False God looks good, isn't good. Well, they keep throwing it in every precon, it seems like. Same with Mirrored Landscape. But I totally get why you cut these. I would do the same. But is that it? Is that going to be all of your cuts and additions?
That is the Explorer of the Deep 100 for me, sir.
Explorers of the Deep. All right, Shane. As you know, before we end this video, we have given you $100 to make this deck even better than it already was. With these new additions, what is the total amount of money you spent?
At recording, Hunter, since this is going to be some pre-release prices as well, the total of my includes are $95.16. But I can imagine that those 3 cards that I'm adding from the new set are going to drop a bit in price. So this could come even lower in price.
Yeah, those 3 cards plus Lord of Atlantis is a reprint that's actually seeing being put into this set as well as a special guest. So that might bring that price down too.
Yeah.
So yeah, go out there, pick up these cards if you want to make this deck better. Check the description down below if you wanted to see this entire deck list of Explorers of the Deep. But before we wrap things up, Shane, do you have any final thoughts on the deck itself?
The only thoughts that I have, Hunter, is that I'm extremely excited to play this 100 against all of you guys. I think this deck is going to go insane. I think the explore mechanic on each of your merfolks in combat is going to be it's going to get out of hand very quickly. And I think you're going to be able to ramp with this card very quickly. Like, I think Hakbal is going to be a fantastic merfolk commander.
Yeah, I agree. This seems deadly. Merfolk were already good in a good spot, but being your favorite color combination of Simic, I think you've made this deck even better.
Yeah, I can't wait to actually have this in paper too, man. I'm going to be building this and you're going to be seeing it when we play.
Oh, great. But that is going to do it for us today. If you liked this video, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, so you're staying up to date with all these cool upgrade videos and gameplay videos that we've mentioned. That'll be coming as well, and everything else that we do. Comment down below. Did you agree with Shane's additions? Maybe he cut something out that he disagree with. Always interested to hear what your guys' opinions are so we can make things better. And in the description, not only will you find the link to the Moxfield account for this deck, you'll find a link to all of our social media accounts. That's TikTok, that's X, that's Twitter, at Guys at Magic for each one. Follow us on those, keep up to date with everything else. And we also have a Patreon. If you wanted to see that, the link is there as well. Follow us on that if you wanted to help us even more than you already do just by watching these videos. We have some bonus footage on there if you wanted to check that out. Discord access, as well as potential giveaways. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Bye bye.